my apologies. I don't know if it's Google or what's going on, but for whatever chat didn't go as scheduled and as planned, and I guess I can take credit for that. Hopefully, hopefully next Sunday we'll pick up where we're hoping to start off from tonight with cutting costs on the trap line. There's not much point in discussing that this late on a Sunday night. So, like I said, I was hoping to cover a lot of stuff with Dave and Kirk, and we got Chris as well. Chris is on here. He's having issues with the camera, but he's we've got his audio anyway, so you can say hello to everyone out there, Chris. And
yeah, how you getting on, everyone? It looks a lot better this way. Yeah, so saving costs on the trap line, eh? Lots of ways to save money, I guess. The biggest one, don't go trapping.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to discuss, Chris, was like I know a lot of people out there today are giving up trapping because of the markets, and a lot of people are shortening their lines because of fuel costs and all that. So what we were going to discuss tonight was how to save money with your traps, what type of traps to use that are cheaper, efficient, and just as effective on the line, as well as those guys that are giving up trapping. They're selling a lot of their traps and gear on online and on Kijiji and all the local classifieds, so you could purchase them that way, as well. Chris, you're familiar here on the East Coast. We use a lot of snares, and snares tend to be generally a lot cheaper, especially if you make them yourself. But and again, buying in bulk, that's something where I know a lot of people that are buying conibears now. If you buy them singly, they're usually, I don't know, $31 or something for 330, and if you buy a dozen, you'll usually save about 10%, so you can cut costs that way. But have you, Chris, have you bought any traps in recent years? And if so, like, do you consider buying in bulk, or do you just look for the best deal that you can find in your area?
It's funny you mentioned that. I only mentioned to the wife here a couple hours ago. I said I gotta buy a bunch of new traps, and if I gotta go buy a dozen traps, I don't go out and buy a shitload of traps. First of all, figure out mostly where you want to be trapping. If you're going trapping Martin or mink or whatever, figure out the type of trap you're looking for. Like you say, if you can buy used traps, because unless traps are ancient, they don't wear out, and if they are broken, they're pretty easy to fix. So probably your best bet is to find used traps. But if you want to buy new traps, shop around. You'd be surprised the difference in the prices, especially online prices, eBay and places like that. Fellas thought I'm gonna go trapping, never ever did go trapping. So they shop around, and the more you buy, like you said, the cheaper they become. So I haven't bought traps in years. I think I'm still using the same old traps I grew up with, believe it or not. And everyone knows we do a lot of snaring. Now I have bought my snares for the last 2 years, Dave. I haven't made any of my own, and they've only been running me like $2 each or something like that. So if $2 can get you a $40 or $50 animal, that's pretty good, I think. So by far, yeah,
Yeah.
snares is probably the most economical way to go.
Yeah. And in recent years, what I found, the one of the trapping supply stores, one of the only ones here in central Newfoundland, you can buy your snare making material. It's significantly a lot cheaper than buying them pre-made. But um, if you know that you're going to have a couple hundred snares made, I know a lot of people probably don't use that many, but to consider. Say if you plan on trapping for next 5 seasons, trapping seasons, well, instead of buying a 100-foot roll of cable, you can go out and buy a 1,000-foot roll. It's even cheaper again. So like I say, buying in bulk is usually always cheaper, and same thing with buying your ferrules and your locks and that. Like usually the more you buy, the cheaper it is. The last batch of number 3 soft catches that I purchased, I actually bought them. They came out of the States, and it was a lot cheaper than anywhere else here in Eastern Canada, but I got nailed for shipping. And instead of them sending them US postage, they sent them UPS, and UPS charged a crap load at customs, so I had to pay an extra, I think, $120 shipping to get them here. So I lost out there big time, but it does pay to shop around and look around when you are going to be investing in new gear. But awful lot of people are giving it up these days, and it's only a matter of word of mouth and looking online. You can always find, and like I say, the older traps, like you said, Chris, are generally well built and good quality steel. And if they're not neglected and set off, dry sets, then generally they'll last more than a lifetime. So I guess another thing, like I say, I don't want to get into too much detail with cutting costs on the line, but another thing I was going to bring up was your mode of transportation. As a lot of people in recent years have been going back to traveling by foot, and there's advantages and disadvantages to that. You can't cover a lot of ground on foot, but canoe versus a boat and motor, anything that runs on fuel, you're going to be spending a lot more money on. But I won't get into that too much detail. But I don't know, Chris, you're extending your line this year. You got some new area that you're going to be trapping, and what's the main mission for you that you're going to be on that new line that you're going to be running?
Well, for me, I'm gonna be trapping by water this year. That's something I haven't done in years, probably since Labrador, I guess. Because early in the fall down there, we do most of our trapping from speedboating around the bays, along the coastline and stuff like that there. That we did anyway. Uncles still do, but this is a big lake. It has no road access, no quad trails around it, no nothing. The only way to gain access that lake, get around that lake, is to do it in boat. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I got a bit of a hike to get to the bottom. It's about a half-kilometer walk, I guess, from nearest road access. So that's going to be different for me until freeze up. And once it freezes up, I can get around the shore and skidoo. Get on skidoo. It's funny you mentioned skidoos. I mean, if you want to save money with skidoo, I mean, cost-wise, operating costs, 4-stroke is the way to go. You can't beat it. Everybody's seen Dave's new sled. So I'm proud. Anyway,
Yeah.
You better hope spark plug doesn't go in it. It's the only way to get
Yeah.
shot. He's not running his old Nordic there. I mean, he can't pull the carburetor off that clean up there on the snowbank. Because if he had to pull the carburetor off it, hit the start button, she reads the code, she's gone in limp mode, and he's shagged. He's walking home. And a lot of these new players,
Yeah, that's the thing.
they got no pull cords, and you cannot start them with the clutch. I tried. As soon as you turn her over and the ignition isn't on, she'll read code and won't start. So those new sleds are great. They're cheap. They're as cheap as a big loader. But I'm telling you, if anything goes wrong with them, well, I got one here now. The clutch is shot on it. Parts wise, not bad, but I mean, they got all the same parts as your car. Your Honda Civic, you're more from choice, or your Japanese bike. I don't know, it's crazy. There's so much stuff that can go wrong with them. That old 340, I just done the engine in that, and I don't know if anyone's seen the video. I'd say it took me all of 20 minutes to pull the blocket of that, pull the cylinder off it, see what was wrong with it, ran in the woodshed, dropped the other one in it, and fire it up and go. I'd say all total, it took me hour and a half. I need a winch just to get the engine out of the other sled. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
New gear is great as long as you
Chris, have you noticed over your way? I know here in Central, it's getting to be quite common here instead of the side by sides and regular ATVs, quads and that, but those little mini trucks that are coming from overseas, Suzuki and all those little tiny little trucks with the pan on them and stuff. They they're usually $1,000 used to buy at a dealership here in Central Newfoundland. You're getting about 60 miles to the gallon with those things. If anyone out there was going to go out and buy a UTV or an ATV, I'd highly suggest looking into buying one of those mini trucks to cut down on fuel costs, because we all know, like an ATV, snowmobile, and of course the side by sides, you're lucky to get 18-20 miles to the gallon. So if you can triple your mileage with your fuel, like, well, that's 3 times the fuel savings. But those little mini trucks, you can also order the tracks that go on those, so you can use them off the trail. You can anywhere pretty much a side by side will go, and then even further, because like I say, you got the tracks with them. But I don't know how popular they are over your way, Chris, but I'm seeing more and more of them here. And not only that, but you can legally license them for the highway and for the roads. So there's no trailer, no nothing. You can leave right from your doorstep and be out onto your trap line and travel them just by the one vehicle. So saves a bit of time, right?
Yeah, I forget what the nickname they got put on him. Charlie's there in the chat part. Charlie probably know what they call him, because I've seen him do a couple videos on him. He looked like he had a lot of fun in one. But this is to beat the guts out of you. Eh?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the short wheelbase or the narrow wheelbase or whatever it is, but then the cab most of the times is rated over the front axle. So, well, it's like driving a cab over, a mini cab over. I guess that's exactly what it is, I guess. I don't know. This is the rough.
Yeah.
They're rough to use off road, but I don't know. And quad tires working on them, along with the street tires and tracks. I mean, they seem to be pretty universal rigs. I don't know. I thought about it there a few years ago, first when they started getting on the go, and I pretty well talked myself into a quad is more practical, I think.
Another thing, a lot of people, I know it's mentioned there, Luther is talking about those Argos. They're rough as can be. They're even worse again than those little mini trucks. I wouldn't, with someone with a weak back like me, I wouldn't be able to travel half a mile on an Argo. But again, like they are a great vehicle for year round, but they can be pretty rough, and it all depends on the terrain that you're traveling over and where you are. But an Argo for me is not practical, but I'd take a mini truck any day over an Argo, and not to mention you're in an air conditioned or a heated cab, depending on the conditions outside. You're in and out of the weather, so that's one. Like I say, I've had a Yamaha Kodiak 450, and that's served me well since 2008, and I don't think I'll ever be investing in anything new anytime soon. But I'm quite happy using the ATV. But it's something for people, I guess, that want to cut costs and want to get back into trapping or whatever, and they don't have the vehicles already. It's something probably to consider, I guess, would be, if you're going to invest in something, figure out, do your homework and listen to the reviews. And like I say, I know Charlie there, I know Ghost Wolf, I think he's got a video up on him. So there's a lot of pros and cons to all vehicles that you're going to choose to have out on your line. But this day and age, I think fuel efficiency is something serious to consider, especially if you're running a longer line. So yeah. I guess another thing I was going to touch on was location of sets and whatnot, especially for anyone that's at the Waterford. I know a lot of people with their RTLs up on the mainland and stuff, Chris, they're like, it's typical and common for them to get 75 and 150 beaver a year. But if you were going to be considering cutting costs, you may want to choose your location of your where you're going to be setting out. Like, do you want to set out on a beaver pond that's got, you know, 2 beaver using in on a bank set, or would you rather go to the next pond down and have the advantage of getting 20-25 beaver, and I guess make it a little cheaper that way? But that was something, I don't want to get too detailed into that, Chris, but and same thing with using natural resources as well. Like a lot of people out there buying the I guess the trap stands and all that, but you can use the resources around you, and you know, natural wood and log floats and all that stuff. And use lumber. You can find out if your neighbor's tearing down his old barn or his old shed, and you want to make up a set of muskrat floats. Well, you can get the used lumber off of him to make it, instead of going to the hardware store and buying new. So a lot of different ways we can cut costs, isn't there, Chris?
Oh yeah, it's endless, man. Endless, I'm telling you. Yeah, I've seen those 330 or Conibeer stakeholders. They seem like pretty nifty, really easy set and stuff. But I can't see me tracking that into the woods, man. Getting tangled up in the bush. Yeah, that's nice to be mucking around through the tag alders and the tuckamore. Yeah, lovely. I don't know. For
Yeah.
me, the trap is all like the trap and axe is pretty well all I ever carried if you're going to trap an animal. Anything else you need is 90% of the time is pretty well there at your fingertips. It's like these drags for canines too, but I still don't understand that. I mean, all we ever done was tie the trap to Jesus' big stick or stump and let him drag that if he wants to. And they're usually free, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, or
Yep.
I even seen Big Flat Rock. Dang, crossword. Drag that off. Don't go very far. Well, there's lots of
I
stuff out there.
know.
It seems like trapping is becoming
Yeah.
more and more commercialized all the time, and it doesn't have to be. Like you gotta have this type of trap for
Yeah.
this animal, or that type of trap for that animal. I think years ago, man, all they had was 2 or 3 different types of Victor line string leg holds and trapped all the same animals we're trapping now. So I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it seems like every year, and I was surprised a lot of these channels, you guys are promoting their products and lures and stuff like this here. I mean, it's not very hard to make your own lures, Dave. It's not very hard to, you know, just take your axe and your traps or anything you need to build a set is right there in the woods. I mean, the critters use it all the time. Not, you know, it doesn't have to be expensive. You haven't got to go buy all this gear to start trapping. You do need a few traps and a few snares and a good axe. I'll tell you that. Maybe a set of snowshoes. Depends how far north you are. And regards to sleds, you haven't got to go spend $14,000 on a sled. That blue 340 I got there, I bought that last year. A friend of mine was leaving town. I paid $250 for it. It runs like a dream, and it probably got another 6,000-7,000 miles in it. So, like I said, you haven't got to go blow a load of money on trap gear. An old pickup, old skidoo. It's just the way it is. I mean, don't commercialize it. It doesn't have to be commercialized.
Well, that's just it too. Is I know a lot of people that are new into trapping, that haven't had the I guess the advantage, like me and you, Chris, have been passed down to us from our uncles and fathers and grandfathers and that. But like, I guess what they look at is when the first thing they see is when you walk into a trapping supply store, is that you go up and you see a 330 there, and next to the pile of 330s you see the welded pre-made trap stands, and then you see the pre-made, everything that's pre-made to make it more convenient and easier. And I can understand why people would that aren't familiar with using, you know, older traditional ways to. But I mean, again, if you're getting into it and you haven't done your research and you haven't, then obviously that salesperson there at the trapping supply store is going to definitely lure you into saying, well, you need this, you need this, you need this. So for a lot of the new trappers out there, you don't have to, just because you see the next fella on YouTube using the expensive supplies, doesn't mean you necessarily got to go buy it to make just as effective as a set. So again, like natural resources, surrounding resources around the area that you're trapping in. You don't have to be carrying it to and from. And so not only is it saving money, but it's saving a little bit of time, and of course saving with I guess having to be logging it in and out every time that you're setting or resetting or taking it out. So a lot of different ways out there you can cut down. Like I've never ever used the premium, and again, like Chris, you're a welder yourself, and there's always places you can go to scrap yards and stuff. If you wanted to use those steel trap stands for the 330s, you can find scrap steel and bar around that. And if you even if you can bubblegum weld, you can go out and you can make them yourself. You don't have to spend the money, and if you've got the time to put into it, then by all means you can save a lot by making it yourself, right?
Oh yeah. Usually if I find ground stock like that kicking around, I usually keep it for more important stuff. Ski rods for skidoos. You go through a lot of those. But like I said, I use the skidoo early in the
Yeah.
fall and late in the season. So I go. Well, I went fishing the other day, man. I'd say we travel over a full kilometer of gravel all total. So yeah, but it's not very hard. Most of the gear you can make. I mean, how hard is it to make a square box to go trap a few mink or a few martin? It's not that complicated. And throw what is it, 160 or 180 in it. I don't know. Oh, somebody asked me how big I makes my boxes. I think they're 7 1/4 inside. They pretty well take the 110 right up to a 180, I believe. So. Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, it's getting too commercialized. You don't need all that gear. Dave mentioned there that you're not letting you use those line strings much for much anymore. No, that's true. I was only trying to make a point. Like I said, you you buy the right traps that you need to target certain animal you want to trap, but don't overbuy traps. One trap can trap a lot of animals. It's, you gotta understand the area and how many animals are there, how many animals you want to be taking out of it, how fast you want to take them out of it, stuff like this here. You gotta consider all that. And here's another thing I don't do here that we always did home. We never ever took traps in the bush, ever. We always just took them and hung them in a tree or wherever we had to set to, and you go back the next year and you just take it out of the tree and you set it up again. So you only carry it in gear once. And it's something I don't do here because I'm
Yeah.
afraid people will steal them. But we never ever took traps or snares and that. Now snares here, I don't take into the woods usually. I just take them and draw them through and hang them in the tree or wherever it sets to. And just set them up again in the fall a lot of the times until they get rusty. And it seems like a lot of that new cable's getting rusty pretty fast, Dave. You notice that?
Yeah. Um, that and excuse me, that and the locks. I've noticed the last 2 years. I don't think our weather is changing that drastically, but I guess the quality of steel that they're using now. But uh, I used to use the extension wire, the soft stuff that was easier to bend. I used to use that, the extension wire on my snares, and I only get one season out of them now. Whereas 10 years ago, I'd probably get 4 or 5 years out of them. So they're, I guess it's just the quality of steel today. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Strange.
going on. Because I had some fox snares in that blind to the old man. I'd say some of them are, man, you must be at least 12, 13 years old. And
Yeah.
and I think I'm still using a couple. They're the ones with the double flat locks. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like two pieces of flat. I mean, I haven't seen those locks around in years. So I still got a
Yeah.
couple of them. So I mean that
I've been
cable lasts
reusing
forever.
them every, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been reusing those locks on a lot of the new snares that I'm making up. I'll take those. It's just a double tab with a single tab in between it, and I tell you, those locks they're way better than the slim locks that you get today. But I'm still reusing those. Actually, they work pretty good. And like I say, they weren't made yesterday. I haven't seen them in the trapping supply store now, and I don't know how many years. Probably at least 10 years or more. But yeah, they and that's the thing too is reusing your locks, reusing your snares if they're not kinked or if they're not damaged. Like that's another thing too is you don't have to go out and remake your snares every single year. You don't have to go out and change out your, you know, if you got a little bit of surface rust on your anchors or on your chains, like all that stuff that can be all maintained and you know utilized year after year after year if it's taken care of properly. And so a lot of I guess a lot of money saved that way too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, Dave. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the wires. Just not like it used to be. In regards to the locks, yeah, I still got a few of those left. I don't know. I don't know where you can get some more. Yeah.
I've got this is a pre-made snare that I've got here um, that came from Blue Ridge there in Lewisport, and I just picked it up for just a demonstration to see, and the cable that's used with it, this is a real heavy 5/64, which I will never use for a Coyote again, and it's the soft stuff, so it doesn't hold its shape, but you've got your springs and your single ferrule, and it's got the slim lock on it, and I won't be using the slim lock anymore on them because they just they don't dispatch the animal quick enough. But one thing I wanted to point out and show you with the importance of using a swivel, and these things cost a fortune to buy them pre-made, and they've just got your flat washer and it's twisted around, and you've got a compression spring on the back end of it. But you can buy the wire to make these yourself. YouTube has got a bunch of videos. There's young fellas out there that are just getting into trapping that are making their own. But these swivels, like I say, to buy a pack of 10, it's like it's ridiculous. They're really expensive, probably $4 or $5 a piece. You can make all that yourself. So, and like I say, a lot of the stuff like the swivel that can be reused after you catch your animal. The swivel can, you know, can be taken off the snare if the snare is damaged. That can be reused. There's a lot of stuff that can be, you know, utilized over and over and over again. It's not like you got to go out every year and spend a fortune. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I say, anyone gets started. I mean, start small. If you're just getting into trapping, you go pick up some 120s, shop around, some 140s, maybe some 180s. Pick up maybe a few, you know, a few leg holds, a few soft catchers or something if you want to try canine trapping. But I don't know. For God's sake, Steve buys dirt in the States. Steven sell you dirt, sure, for God's sake. That's something?
Yeah.
Huh? Go buy dirt for trapping. Crazy.
I guess another thing I wanted to bring up too about trapping on how to save on costs is with the type of sets that you got. Anyone out there, you check your local regulations, but your footholds, usually you got a 24-hour check on them, and that can add up pretty quick if you got to be back and forth every single day checking your sets, especially if you've got a long distance line to check. So what I was going to mention, again, I got so much stuff here that I wanted to get covered. Unfortunately, Google messed that up for us tonight, but you can avoid that by choosing a Conibear. You can use your sets that dispatch like your killing style traps, so that you don't have to be out every day checking them. If you choose to do so once a week, and again, depending on your area, if you're not within sub-freezing temperatures and you're worried about taint and you know the animal spoiling before you get back to check that set, well, for a lot of water fur, a lot of water animals, you can set your Conibears or your leg holes with your drowning sets. Set them so that the animal is going to be dispatched and remain underwater, and that animal will last, I don't know, 5 times longer than if it was up on dry land. So that's another thing to consider is if you wanted to have all your gear set out, but you didn't want to be back and forth every day and burning fuel for nothing, well, concentrate on having your sets so that you can leave it for a week and it's not going to be damaged. It's not going to be spoiled with the sun and the temperature. As well, a lot of people are using the flip ups with their sets, and that way the shrews or the other animals out there aren't going to be eating and tearing holes in their bellies. And so flip ups is another thing that that can be used on the line. And generally speaking, like we got gray jays here, but I don't think I don't know if they bother the animal that'd be hung up in a flip up or not. But I can honestly tell you that you don't have to shorten your line to save money. You know, with trapping, like a lot of people there, even myself this past year, I didn't have nowhere near the gear out because of the cost of maintaining. But you don't have to reduce your line at all. You just plan ahead and make it a little more efficient for, like, a lot of people here on the island. If you get a warm start to the opening season, the third week in October here, you're going to usually have 2 or 3 weeks of above freezing temperatures. So you kind of got to get out and check it every day. So so that's another thing to consider is, you know, depending on the weather in your area, when you want to be I guess your full gear is one thing to consider. Save on cost that way. Chris, you don't use much for leg holds, so like how often this past year and the few you had out, like what's sufficient in your mind to be reasonable with your killing sets? Like how often do you figure it's necessary to go out and check on your line? 3 days, 5 days, 7 days?
Yeah, so I was just reading in the chat there. I mean, a lot of these guys, especially down in the States and up on the mainland there, they got a minimum of a 24-hour check, which is crazy in my mind. Because a lot of the times, 90% of the sets you have out are kill sets anyway, and the only reason you go back so often what you do is just so fur don't spoil your green belly or nothing doesn't eat it. I mean, in regards to checking, because there's a live animal in the check in the trap, and that never ever occurs to me. Unless I had leg holds. If I set a lot of leg holds out, yeah, sure, I'd probably try to get around and check it every day. These soft pitch traps, I mean, they're pretty humane anyway. I don't know, you can tie a dog on, I guess, for a day or two if you had to. I mean, my uncle's in that, they're trapping down home now. Cousin Tyler down there, Uncle Dolph, Uncle Bruce, who's 74 years old and still trapping, by the way. And every 7 days they check their link sets. Yeah, you heard me. Every 7 days. Well, my uncle said, well, I knows where I'm catching cats still. I knows where fresh signs still. I knows at least here. He said there's a minimum of 10 days, he said, for the chance of him even coming back to the set, usually. Between 7 and 10 days. So he checks his traps once a week. And believe it or not, they don't set any spring bones or nothing, but I think there are 8 lynx he caught this winter, I think he said, or last winter, I think he had 1 eaten, which is not bad, I guess. And he was eaten by another lynx, so. Yeah,
Yeah.
in regards to martins are hung in the tree, usually frozen solid. They're not going to hurt. I mean, I don't understand why you have these 24-hour check rules. I mean, here on Island, we don't have anything like that. Not to my knowledge. I mean, you know, you use your own discretion, I guess. The only reason I try to check my sets on a daily basis, especially when they're close to the house there, I'll get off work in the evenings and go checking and stuff like that there, but got nothing to do with predation or spoilage because snow conditions been pretty bad this year, so we've been ditch trapping. And one thing I found is that ditch trapping, you increases other trappers' numbers drastically if you're catching fur in your sets. So yeah, theft is a big thing.
Yeah.
I know a few guys had on YouTube had a little trouble there with that gear. That's not good, man. I would never steal a man's animal. Actually, and I've done this. I've done this on a number of occasions. I've come along fellow sets, seen a live animal in it. I've dispatched the animal and hung it in the tree along the set. And I grew up with that courtesy. That's what you done for other trappers, and that's what other trappers done for you. There was never an issue. That's something you never hear talk of here. But I don't know. That's just the way I grew up. And I think if I ran across a live animal and somebody said now, I think that yeah, you fall before last. I did. Sean had a had an animal in the set. I took it, killed it, and I hung it in the tree along the set. Now I probably could have got charged for tampering with his gear, but I knew Sean doesn't check his traps for every 2 days, and I seen him that day, so or the day before, so I knew it was at least another day before he get there. So rather than see the fox suffer, I made away with it and hung it in the tree for him. And he thanked me for it when he seen me again and asked me about it. Not a big deal.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the right thing. I mean, that's something. Started tracking in this area. I when the lynx were really abundant, and I had a lynx snare, and when I pulled up to the set, the snare cut off with pliers. I was somebody still catch my lynx. Continue with your checks. Only to down that a voicemail on the home phone, and a fellow that was a non-trapper actually seen, figured he'd taken home, else took it home, and he had it hung in the shed, and he had I'm sure it was your set, so I got the links here. It's hung up in my shed. You can come down and get it. So well, that was pretty thoughtful and pretty courteous thing to do, and I think it's the right thing to do. But again, like I there are going to be people out there that are going to disagree, and they're going to say, you know, I don't want you with my sets or my catches or whatever. But you do what you think is the right thing to do, and you're doing it as a not doing to mess with secure. But it's something I guess that's becoming more common in recent years. You got people that never heard of the Trappers Code of Conduct and are new into it. They see an animal in somebody else's set, and they just figure it's fine for them to take it and bring credit for that, even if they worked hard to. So I'm going to mention with, I guess, for fur shed, some of us will I guess do our fur handling and our pelt preparation in a heated basement, your own home and that. But for those of us that use wood heat or even electric heat in a separate building, um, uh, if every single time if you come home with one animal each day and you got to put a fire in and you got to you know take the pelt off that hide and you got to flush it and then you got to stretch it. And of course you know overnight I guess low heat on it to I guess to get it ready to dry it. But one thing I guess to consider, depending on how many stretchers you got for those particular animals, but say if you had 6 stretchers for fox, 6 stretchers for coyote, what you can do is wait until you get to that, depending on if dust are going to be suited for that size animal. But you can wait until you get that many animals, and you can prepare them and skin them and flush them all at the same time, and you're not wasting wood heat, you're not wasting electrical heat to cure that pelt. So that's something to keep in mind with fur handling and saving money in the fur shed is instead of having a fire in every single catch, you can let your to whatever you got. Chris, I know Dave there, Vandermeer, like he's the number of catches he's getting. He's usually whenever he can get it done, he can get it done. But I know a lot of times he has pelts that are piled up and are usually put in the freezer, and that's another thing you can do. You can rough skin them and put them on to get them ready before the sale, where you can plan ahead and do them all accordingly at once and save costs that way. But
Yeah,
Chris, I don't know
I learned one big thing there, right? Do
if,
not
if
feed
you
animals
what's
for
that?
over a year. I had an otter in the freezer for a year and a half and took it out and decided to flesh it. Well, I
Yeah.
damn near having to mop up all the vomit off the floor, and that had to be the most disgusting thing I ever spilled in my life. They're not nice when they're green, let alone when they're a year and a half old.
Yeah. Well,
Man, that was,
you can actually the cellophane, like the saran wrap, that works really good, or that shrink wrap for going around crates, that works really well. Just that, I think, earlier on. Yeah, you can get every like roll 2 otters or rough skin and put it in the. They smell a little bit fishy.
yeah,
Anything an otter
well,
that's the flesh,
yeah, I gotta stop you there
it's
for a
not
minute,
easy
Dave.
once they've been froze.
Yeah, I gotta take off there, Dave. Man, I got an early rise in the morning, 5:30 a.m. and it's going for 12 o'clock there now, man. Listen, look, great chatting with you. It's too bad the
Yeah,
boss couldn't get on there. Listen, take it easy,
no
everyone.
worries.
Be talking to you soon enough.
Uh,
Stay where you two till I come to
all
you.
right. Thanks, Chris.
Yes, take care, Dave.
Like it says, chat at all. This is the first we happened. I had a go, and for whatever reason, things just as normal. So I'm not gonna and bore you guys down here. I've only got so much I can talk about. Start going away. So my apologies again with tonight's chat. It didn't go as planned. So it's not a Sunday night that you can totally write off, but in my so I enjoyed the brief chat that we had to discuss, but it's kind of hard to do when things don't go as reminder back on Timeline's channel, so you can tune in, set time, watch that, and I don't know what to say, but it was it wasn't a whole lot of fun for me on this end tonight. So I'll sign off now, and everyone's channel next Sunday, 7 and there. So as always, guys, take care. Thanks for watching.